This is what Beanstack looks like when you open the app. It'll open right up on your home screen, and at the top here shows your current streaks if you have any. I don't, because I don't currently log my reading every day in this app specifically, because I'm using it with my library when they do current challenges. Currently, my library is doing a spring 2026 book binge that they do every year that starts in March 2026, and it'll end at the end of May, which I've actually already completed and gotten my prize for that. The app also shows you your recent titles that you can scroll through and see what you've logged, what you've finished, that sort of thing. It also shows you your stats, which logs your minutes read, your pages read, titles logged, reading sessions, stuff like that. You can also see detailed statistics, which can also be seen in a different tab as well. You can also view your badges, which are what you would get for completing specific badges for challenges that your library or your school sets up for certain like competitions or challenges or whatever. So these are badges that I got as part of completing that book binge challenge that I was talking about. And if you scroll back even further, there are a couple for my library's summer reading program from last year and the book binge from the previous year as well. There is also an activities tab that shows activities that your library or your school organization, if you're using it with your school, has currently available. My library doesn't currently have one running right now. This is the log tab of Beanstack, and you can see I've got it pulled up for March of this year just to kind of show you guys that this is where it will log what you've logged for completion. If you've logged a book that you've completed or you've logged reading sessions, you can see where I've logged those books that I marked that I completed for the book binge challenge that I talked about. You can also see that I don't really have much logged for April other than the book that I'm currently reading right now. You can switch over to all titles and it will show what you have logged in the app so far, including listing how many times you've completed each book. You can see that the two I have for April are books that I'm currently reading, so they don't list as completed. You can also switch over from all titles to completed and it'll show you all the books that you have completed versus the books that you were just reading, so it'll sort that way. You can also show a list of all of your badges that you've completed, and it'll show you the dates that you completed those badges on. Like I said, the read 5 books, read 4 books are for the book binges challenges that I've done. A couple, the other ones are for summer reading program challenges that my library has done, because that's mostly what they use Beanstack for. The other tab in this log section is achievements, which you can tap into. It shows you get an achievement if you log your first reading session, you get your first streak, your first 3-day streak, complete your first activity. I got something for Read Across America and Read Across America Day and Robert Frost's birthday. I wasn't aware that I got those achievements, so that's kind of cool. The next tab is the streaks tab, which lets you look, I'm going to scroll back over here, see how many current days you have on your current streak. I don't have any because, again, I don't use this as a main tracker. You basically use this when my library is doing challenges. So like I won't use this actively again until they start their summer reading program later in the summer. But if I was to use this daily, this is where the current streak would show up. It would also show up on that homepage as well if you saw that too. It also shows where my longest streak was, which is 3 days. It shows my longest title completed. It shows how many my most pages in a reading session, and it shows my longest session, which I don't really use the reading session function on this or any tracker, so that's not really going to be a stat. If you go down to the calendar, it's going to show you the dates on here that you have logged. It'll just highlight, and those are the dates that I think I completed those books that I showed you previously. The highlights page is basically just going to show you the same information, just in a different format. I believe it's what it looks like here. And then you can go back to statistics, which again, I don't use this a whole lot, so there's not a whole lot to see. But if I did, it could show you reading time, pages read, number of reading sessions, days of reading, time per session, pages per hour, pages per session. So there's lots of statistics in here. If you want to use this as your main tracker, there is an option. There is a way for you to do that. So one more thing on the app that I do want to show you guys is how to log a title, which is just hitting this plus button in the middle here. You'll click on reading. It will bring up the select a title option. You can search the title, and I'm going to go ahead and add something that I have not added yet, that I have finished. Some of you might be familiar with this one if you caught my review last week. But it will bring up the book, and you can type in the number of pages. You can actually click off track progress, I think, if you want. If you're going to track progress, you have to put the number of pages at the end, and you can hit save. And then you can hit quick complete if you've already finished it, which I'm going to go ahead and do because I have already finished the book. Okay, let's do another one. So, because I want to show you guys that menu. I kind of went through it a little quickly. So I'm going to click off track progress. Hit save. Okay, so I'm going to click quick complete because I'm finished with this book already. I'm not still reading it. But if I was still reading this one, there is a log reading option where you could log what page you started on and what page you ended on to have that session logged if you wanted to track it for like a streak or something. If you're using this as a main reading tracker, that's what you could use that for. Or if you wanted to start a reading session, you could hit that start timer button and it would start a reading session for you. So those are the options when you're wanting to log a reading, log a title, or try to track your reading with the Beanstack app outside of a library or a school challenge. So that's just something I wanted to show you guys as a way of how to use this app if you're not using it within the library system or the school system, if that's something you're interested in using Beanstack for. One thing up at the top of the log tab is this little magnifying glass here that allows you to search your log for a specific title. So for example, I could search the Dungeon Anarchists Cookbook. And right, I could search for a title that I have already completed and it would bring it up, and then I could pull it up and it would bring up my details about when I've completed it, all of those sorts of details, that sort of thing. So that's a neat little feature in the log tab. Next, we have the Discover tab on here. So I'm going to scroll up to the top for a minute. This is where you can see your challenges. Again, you're going to see that the current challenge I've got going on is still that book binge challenge, even though I've already completed it. It's still going on until the end of May, so it's still showing up in my feed here. There are more challenges through my library. They have a minute tracker that goes, it basically goes to the end of July 2031, which means you can just, I haven't joined it. It's an available challenge where you can just track your minutes read. I don't know that that's something for like prizes or anything. I think that's just an incentive to try to get people to read. It's not something I'm actively enrolled in, but it is something that they're offering, which is kind of neat. The next one is that activities page, which if you're on the home page and you go to check for activities, it will take you to this tab. And it basically just right now for my library, it shows that there are no activities running at this time. That may change once they start doing the summer reading program. That might be something that they integrate and have going on when they have a lot more things happening. This is just kind of a slow time for my library specifically. But if your library system or your school organization has activities going on, that is where this tab is where that would be shown. And the same for events. For your age range or anything like that, this is where you would find that in this tab. The last of the little tabs down here on the bottom is the community tab on the Beanstack app. This is where you will be able to see more information about your library. This shows your library information. It shows the challenges that they're currently featuring, at least for my library. So right now they're showing the book binge challenge that I've talked about, and they're also showing the big one. The other big one that they do is the 1,000 books before kindergarten, which is what they do for kiddos who are trying to read 1,000 books before they start kindergarten. And there's a bunch of little prizes that they'll have for kiddos that do that. So that is something that parents can enroll their kids in, which is really neat. But if you go over to the Friends tab, you can add friends to join you and kind of, compete with them, that sort of thing. That's not something I'm doing, but that is an option that the app offers. There's also a leaderboard where you can, add your friends and see where they rank as far as, and challenges and reading sessions, that sort of thing, where you can kind of compete and kind of challenge each other. So that is a neat little feature that I don't think I've seen in other trackers. So that is a neat feature that Beanstack offers that others don't.
Hey there, book lovers. Well, I hope that seeing that on the screen was helpful. As always, just if you're not familiar with the app, just to see how it looks, how it operates, what the features that it offers. If you aren't familiar with what Beanstack is, it is a popular web and mobile app that uses gamification, so badges, challenges, streaks, stuff like that to promote reading. It usually uses virtual badges and rewards for achieving goals that are often tied to physical prizes at libraries or school organizations that use it. So for example, my library uses it a lot for their summer reading program challenges, or that book binge challenge that I was telling you about, where once you complete the challenge, you can bring it in and show that you've completed it, and you can get a physical prize once the clerks can verify that you have in fact completed the challenge, and you get the prize that's correlated to that virtual prize, virtual challenge or reward or whatever. It is an app that is primarily used by school and library programs that allows families to participate in library summer reading programs or school-wide reading competitions. It is, however, also available to users outside of a library or school organization. So if your library or your school does not use Beanstack, you are still able to access it from either the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store, whichever device you use that would be able to run the app. It is free to use. You can sign up for an account without being affiliated with either a library or a school organization. It allows users to create profiles for everyone in their family within a single library or a Beanstack Go account. And Beanstack Go is what you would use if you choose to use the app without being affiliated with a library or a school. Now, when I was searching for it in the Play Store to research for this video, it did just come up when I typed in Beanstack Go. It came up as Beanstack, so it is just the same app as what you would use for like a library or a school account. I assume that if you were signing up for an individual account, the extra step that I had to do when I was signing up with it to connect it to my library account, you just wouldn't have to do. So some of the features that you may have seen on that walkthrough were you can join reading challenges to help achieve reading goals in the app. You can track your reading progress and create a reading log. You are able to use a barcode scanner to quickly and easily find your titles. I know I showed you guys the search bar, but there is a little spot next to the search bar where you can scan a barcode. If you have access to a barcode, you can scan that if that's easier for you. You can also record reading sessions with a timer, or you can log an entire book. You are able to achieve streaks for reading multiple days in a row. You can receive badges for reaching your reading goals. You can complete fun activities. You're able to access reading recommendations if that is something that your library or your school offers. You're able to add friends and compete in leaderboards. You can view reading stats, and you are able to participate in reading fundraisers if that is something that's sponsored by your organization. I do want to point out that this is another thing that is going to differ if it's something that your library or your school uses. It's going to differ as far as what you're able to use and have access to based on how much or how little your library or your school uses it. For example, my library doesn't really use it a whole lot for a lot of challenges. They only really do it for a couple of challenges a year consistently. Otherwise, it's kind of left to patrons on their own to track their reading progress as they want to, or add friends and kind of compete with their reading progress with their friends on their own sort of deal. That your results are going to vary depending on if you're affiliated and using it with your library or your school system. If that's something that they offer, it just kind of depends on, maybe some libraries are more active, some schools are more active versus others. So just be aware of that. So as you saw in that walkthrough, I don't use my Beanstack app very much outside of when my library is doing a specific challenge, like that book binge challenge that I mentioned that they do every year, or their summer reading program, which they're going to be doing here coming up. I think at the end of May is when theirs starts, and it goes toward the end of July, I believe. So I will probably start doing that and using it a bit more often when that starts up. I wish they did more challenges throughout the year. It's not currently something that they're doing. So again, I am kind of limited by how often my library chooses to use the app, since I'm not using it as my main book tracker. That could be something that, again, that could be something that's different for you if you decide to use it as a main book tracker, which you absolutely can. It can be used for that, especially if you're using it unaffiliated with a library or a school system. My daughter's school also uses it for their students as a way to encourage them to read, but as she's only just finishing up kindergarten, we haven't really used it much for her yet. I suspect that'll change in the future because she is a pretty good reader already, and I don't expect that to change very much as she gets older. She really likes books. So I do expect to be using that a bit more in the future as she gets older, but right now it's just not something that I'm using too terribly much. I will say that the user interface is a little bit difficult to navigate when it comes to logging a book versus what I'm used to from other book trackers that I've tried. I don't know if that is because I don't use this app as much as some of the other book trackers that I have tried. And you can see, if you've missed any of my previous book tracker videos, you can catch that here. And I'll also put a link to those in the description as well. One big example is this also offers a feature of using a reading session with a timer that I just don't use. I don't use it in this app. I don't use it in a lot of the other book tracker apps that I have tried out. I just typically, when I'm logging a book, mostly I will log my progress of pages read, or I will log if I finished a book, which is usually what I do for Beanstack specifically. But I'm just not one to set a timer and read and do a reading session and track my reading that way. So that's not a feature that I use in any of the book trackers that I've come across. And that is a feature that I have seen in pretty much all of them that I have tried. It's just not for me. I do appreciate that it's there, and it seems to be a feature that a lot of people do enjoy, and maybe that helps people to get their reading in on a daily basis. So I like that it's there. It's just not something that I use. Overall, for me personally, I don't really see myself ever switching to using Beanstack as my main book tracker. However, I do appreciate that my library uses it for challenges so that I don't have to keep track of a paper reading log for things like summer reading, which I have done in the past, especially now that I have my little girl and feel like I have more than enough to keep track of without adding another piece of paper to the mix. I like that it's all on the app and the clerks at the library are able to just check it when we come in and see what prize we're eligible for. I am also sure that it'll be useful once she starts using it in school in the future too. So I'm really looking forward to that as she gets older and gets into reading more, and we're able to use that and see how her school is actually using that. While I don't see myself using this as my main book tracker, I can definitely see the appeal for someone who is still looking for a book tracker. It has all of the same features as a lot of the other book trackers that I've tried out. It has all of the stats. It has all of the reading session logging and everything that someone might be looking for. And it has the added bonus of being able to be tied to a library system if your library offers that, or a school if you have a kid that's in school or you're in school yourself, and it's kind of an all-in-one sort of tracker that way. If you're still looking for a book tracker to use and that is something that might be helpful or might be an added bonus for you, I would definitely recommend checking this one out. I hope you guys found the information in this video helpful, especially if you are still looking for a book tracker to use and this one looks like it would be something that would be interesting for you to try out. And especially as a bonus, if your library or your school already uses Beanstack, or if you've seen it around and you're just curious about it and want to try it out. If you have already tried it out and you have thoughts about it, please let me know what those are in the comments. I am always interested to hear what you guys think about these trackers, both good and bad thoughts. I would always love to hear what you guys think. For those of you interested in finding out what's next on the channel, be sure to be on the lookout for my review of The Butcher's Masquerade by Matt Dinniman. This is the story of Carl, Donut, and the rest of the crawlers who have reached the 6th floor of the dungeon, which is known as the hunting grounds because of the outside tourists that are now allowed in to hunt the crawlers for sport. As if surviving the dungeon on its own wasn't difficult enough, Carl, Donut, and their friends must now work together to keep from being the hunter's victims too. This is book 5 in the Dungeon Crawler Carl series, and if you missed my reviews of the previous books in the series, you can catch those here and in the description. This book is by far the wildest one that I've read in this series yet, and I can't wait to share more with you guys about it, so definitely stay tuned for my review. As always, there will be spoilers in this review, but I'll add spoiler tags wherever I can to help you guys out with those. That's it for today's video. If you liked anything you saw here today, please be sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more content. Otherwise, I'll see you next time, and happy reading!